And if we really start from the very beginning, that's where we're creating content that could be video, it could be podcast episodes, it could be blogs, it could be social media posts, but all of that really does start from writing. All content starts with something you're writing down, essentially. And I know that there's a lot of people who think that the video is just something which we very randomly do. You'll just go and start talking to a phone camera and then everything's right. But that's completely chaotic and it depends on your energy levels at the time and what you're able to do. What we really need to do is to plan things out. And this will help you to do that a little bit more successfully, I think. And also it's exactly the method that I use, and I'm pretty prolific with my writing online. So how do we do it? Well, the first thing we need to do is to understand that there's three steps to getting your content right. And it's got to fill into a couple of the topics you want to talk about. There could be two topics. I generally send two because when you try to do too many topics outside of your core, people get confused about who you are and what you stand for. Then we look at three values. I'll explain a bit more about what that means shortly, and the five big questions to ask. I've got some other tools towards the end of this webinar today that'll help you with that as well. Just so you know, any tools that I mention in here or frameworks, I'll be linking through to an email at the end. So you'll get that if you register for the webinar, you'll get that through your email. So let's start off with the two topics. These topics are really the two things that you are just, I guess, mostly based upon. What do you mostly do? What are the things that are part of your day-to-day work? What do people ask you for help around? So if there's something which people are constantly coming to you and asking, hey, can you help me with this? Or what do you know about that? Or can you partner with me for this? That's a pretty good sign that that's something that you hold some expertise in. And finally, what is an area of your business or of your career that you want to grow at? So these are generally the three things you'll be looking at, the things that you'll be working mostly around. So what we want to do is really work in the areas of your greatest strength. They're your topics. Now, if I need to look at what my topics are when I do them, mine are all around either entrepreneurship, which could be confidence. It could be starting a business, growing a business, scaling a business, getting in money for investment. They're all related, right? I've kept these topics fairly broad, not too super specific, because I still need some room to sort of move around with those. And the other one is around either sort of content creation and social media. They're really the two topics that I cover the most. Now, under entrepreneurship, I could cover something like public speaking, because that's part of an entrepreneur's life, is to be able to present themselves and to clearly articulate and communicate what they're about. And then there could be content creation through social media, which is then, that can be anything from, gosh, we're looking at, it could be social media posts, it could be making videos, it could be being a podcast episode. So I keep my topics fairly loose, but they're specific enough that you know that I'm talking within expertise. I'm not suddenly talking about how to work with Zero. Okay, even though I know tons about Zero and I use it every day for my businesses and for my invoicing, I'm not really an expert, and I don't know if I really want to be known to be an expert in that either. Then we move on to our three values, and your values are, to more simply put it, who you are in your good and bad days. It doesn't matter what kind of day it is. This is something that's a feature of you on those good and bad days. This is not what you aspire to be. All right. That should say not now, not what you aspire to be. So we're not talking about some dream you have of being something greater and bigger than what you are now. It's who you are right now. It's what you can achieve right now. What is really within your energy levels, what's really within your expertise level, what's really within what you're able to do today, not just on a good day, but also on the bad day. So if I have to look at my ones, I've got three main ones that are around being honest, approachable, and effective, because I know that I can do those even on my worst days. I'll be honest, which often is a form of vulnerability. It could be a sort of authenticity. The approachability means that I feel comfortable for people to come up and talk to me, to be around me, even if I'm not in a great mood. I find I can lift myself into that because it's really who I am. In fact, if I thought that somebody, and it has happened before, someone felt like they couldn't approach me, that kind of hurts me a little bit, even on a bad day. So those things I think are really strong values of mine. Again, though, I could put down something like reliable, but I know damn well that even on my best days, sometimes I'm not that reliable. So that to me is an aspiration. I might aspire to be reliable. I might aspire to be confident, but really I'm not living those every day of my life, or at least 90% of the time, I'm not living those. So if it's down below that 90%, I call that an aspiration, not a value. So these are things that are really core to you that you want to be able to make sure these values are expressed adequately through what you're writing. So that's what we talk about with values. Then we move on to values, from Brene Brown, for instance. And I'll send you the link through to this too in the email. So you'd have to go looking for this and trying to type down lots and lots of letters. But it's all about really, finding something in there that relates to you. In fact, all of mine are in there, but I didn't get them from here. It just so happened they matched ones that are in here. But there's plenty of others you could bring out there. This is just an example from Brene Brown, who's really explored this topic in great detail. So there's some ideas in there. You might want to watch this again. Oh, by the way, this will be on YouTube later on as well. So that's when we move on to the 5 questions. So we've got an idea of what we're writing about. We know the flavor it's going to have, how it's going to express us in what we're writing. Then we need those prompts that tell us, okay, well, how am I going to write about this? And this is by basically asking these 5 questions. The first one is fairly simple. What can I teach? So, what can I teach about this topic, right? Or what have I noticed about this topic? And what have I noticed can be anything from, well, I'll give you some examples soon anyway. How do I think differently about this? So, it could be contrarian, or it could be just that you do have a different spin on this. How can I deliver this as a list? Like the 3 ways to or 4 ways to. And finally, what happened and how did it happen? A bit more storytelling in there. I'm going to sort of give you some examples here. So the first one could be, what can I teach? That could be a life lesson or a lesson of business or a how-to guide on something that you do know how to do. It could also be an instructional video. And a good thing about instructional videos is that they're able for you to, I guess, be able to, have some kind of demo. You can do a live demo. I love doing live demos on screen. I think they're better than using PowerPoint presentations. Or it could also be a story with a lesson. So a story you're telling along the way that has some kind of lesson with it. So you're teaching something ultimately in what's going on. So think about that. What can you teach? What is a topic you could teach about? Or what's within your topic that is something you could teach? So that's probably the basic, most basic beginning we could make, because we all have some kind of thing we know, some kind of expertise we have. An example of this in this one, I was saying my clients and program participants tell me again and again they struggle with writing content. And I think I know why. So what I'm doing here is teaching a bit of context into why people might struggle when it comes to writing. It was all really about the fact that, through high school, we weren't really given the opportunity to write within things we were interested in. We had to write about 19th century poetry and Elizabethan drama and Shakespeare, and they weren't the things that really brought us to life. Now, I was weird. I loved all this, but we weren't really given the interest areas that we had to be something we wrote about. So that's something I taught. Now, what have I noticed is more about what you've observed in your day-to-day work or your day-to-day business or your day-to-day life, right? This is so open and so broad that you could almost make it anything. And what I tend to do is say, I noticed this, that which taught me that. So it's almost like, rather than what you can teach is what you got taught. So it could be, what did I see at work? Did something happen at work that made me think a bit more broadly? So for instance, I wrote a social media post that goes live next Sunday based upon something that happened yesterday when I was in Melbourne. So that was a bit of a lesson that I learned just from an interaction I had with someone. What did I see elsewhere? What did I see someone else doing or saying? I could have watched a YouTube video. Here's something I noticed about that YouTube video. I agree with it because, I disagree with it because. Could be what someone did or said. So you're reporting back on perhaps something you saw in a news article, something that happened in a conference. And it could be something that maybe have concerned you. That's just as important, because that's something which you go, I've noticed this happening. I've noticed kids these days doing this thing, and that's making me very concerned. But one of the main areas I think we get is that we could make it an observation about life. Some observation you made as you're going about your day-to-day work, walking to work, riding a bus, commuting, driving, anything like that. And when I was a radio announcer, very many, many, many years ago, I used to carry around a little like mini notebook with a spiral mini notebooks with a pencil. And because the pencil was really short, I could fit it in my back pocket. and I would notice something, I'd take down the note. It would be a pothole in the street. It would be an interaction that I saw happening on the street. I'd write that down in my notebook, and I'd come to my on-air co-host early in the morning at 4 a.m. and we discuss all the things I've written down and decide which was worth talking about. It's exactly the same process. You'll do that same thing, but these days you got these, right? We've got a mobile phone, which we can do all that with. So what you want to do is take voice notes, take like text notes, whatever you need to do, take photos or videos, whatever you need to do to get those things that are happening day to day. What have you noticed? And that'll give you material, tons of material. It's all saved up on your phone, ready to use when you need it. So an example would be where I noticed a jaded marketer this week who was sick of hearing about the concept of personal branding. And what I wanted to do is show that through the fact that if people who are in the industry are exposed to it too much, they get sick of it very quickly. And if they're just getting sick of it, like we used to in radio, get sick of a hit song, that's because we're too close. Yeah, but the rest of the world is only just starting to notice that thing or just starting to notice that song that's on the radio. So that was something I put forward as something I noticed in an interaction I saw online. It was definitely on LinkedIn, and that became the topic of a post. How do I think differently is where you might not agree with conventional wisdom on something. You know, people do this with paper, and I think that's wrong. Here's why. Or how you might see a common concept a little bit differently. People say you should imagine a room full of people naked and you won't feel so nervous about public speaking. But I think this is a really stupid thing to do, and here's why. It could be your unique take on something. It could be that you're not into people who get into network marketing because the conventional wisdom is a great way to start a business, but you think it's really, perhaps exploitative. Here's why. Or the crowd is wrong. It could be just that you think that the people who are following the crowd might be wrong on a particular subject, or you're just really asking for people to think more deeply on a topic, think a little bit more deeply. And here's why they should think more deeply. They might miss this in amongst this trend or something like that. So this example could be something in the way of me complaining that why are industry day is always based around golf. And honestly, I was having a bit of fun with this. I really don't care about golf. I don't like it. I wouldn't say I hate it, but I just don't like it. And it's just not, I'm not interested. And if a golf day comes up, I'm like, oh, can I get out of this? Right. So I wanted to ask that question. Why is it always golf? Is it because deals are done on courses? Well, no, we're not doing mergers and acquisitions while we're hitting around. So what I wanted to pose that question, and it got a lot of really interesting engagement on that one. So that was just me going, I think differently about the fact that we use golf as a way to do business. The next one could be, what can I deliver as a list? And this is when you can go those, what they call listicles, or it could be clickbait in some way, shape, or form. Something like, here's 3 things to do when this happens. Here's 5 things I've noticed about this. Here's the top 10, 11, 12 things that happen, blah. 2 ways to fail, 2 ways to succeed. The common thread here is there's always going to be a number of that you can make a list of. Now, it could be anything related to what you do. I don't know what it is you do. So you would apply this to anything that you do. In my case, what I decided to do, and this is a couple of years ago now, this was a list of the tools that I use to write my stuff each week. Now, just in case you're wondering, I don't use almost any of these tools anymore. I think I don't even use Grammarly anymore. I use something else. Midjourney I do use. Canva I still use. Flixia very rarely. Pretty much most of these things I don't use anymore. But maybe 2 things that I use now. But the point was that I was presenting a list of the things that I do to get my work done. Now, if I did an updated list of that today, it'd be kind of the content that's in this webinar, to be honest. So some of the tools, which I'll show you later, that I use to produce that kind of stuff. So this is a list, in my case, of the tools that I write all my stuff each week with. It could be the list of the cafes you think are the best places to work when you're in Darwin or when you're in Alice Springs, that kind of thing. The final kind of one you're looking at is what happened and how. And this is very much storytelling, right? It is a story of success. It could be, this happened on the way to success, and this is the success I had. Or it could be a failure story. I failed at this, and here's why. I tell failure stories quite a lot. I find them really, they're kind of a form of therapy, but they're also something that makes you feel very It's very much an honesty thing. And in my case, where honesty is a strong value that I have, being a kid that lied a lot, honesty as an adult is certainly a strong value of mine. And it could be like how your group did something, how you helped someone succeed. Look, whatever it is, it's something that happened that you can then walk us through how that outcome occurred. So think of it, okay, of telling a story in reverse. Here's what happened. Now, let me tell you how that happened or what the steps were along the way to that journey. So, in my case, this one was all about Bonnie, right? A Labrador called Bonnie, a puppy who I was looking after back in 2018, I reckon it was. Yeah, 2018. So, I drew a direct line of circumstances that led from me house sitting and dog sitting for some friends on the Gold Coast to how that got me to be able to do a training on how to use LinkedIn in Kalgoorlie, and how those things linked to each other. And it was an interesting story. Now, did it get massive engagement? No, I think it's one of the best stories I've ever written, but it didn't really resonate that heavily with people. I think it might have been too many words on there or something like that, or someone was like, oh my God, here we go, this kind of story. But the point is that I've done plenty of stories like it since that have been very much accepted and very got great engagement, great views. So it all depends on the time and the place, I suppose. But in this case, it was all about basically showing how this one thing I did led to this thing. So what happened? And here's what led to that happening. So that's the kind of thing that you want to work out through a kind of like a spreadsheet. So if you're doing a spreadsheet, say for instance, start off with the day or the date, and then you have your topic. So in my case, entrepreneurship and content creation. And then you'll have your values. So in my case, honesty, approachability, effectiveness. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before it switches back around to what can I teach. And what you're doing here is I'm never going to have, or at least not within a few weeks, the same combination of topic, value, and question twice. So that's going to come up in about 3 or 4 weeks where it actually swings back around. And you've got the same combination on Monday of entrepreneurship, honesty, and what can I teach? In fact, it's longer, it's about 5 or 6 weeks, or you'll have that same combination again. Which means now most of us aren't writing, 7 days a week. In this case, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. In this case, you're not getting the same things appearing on the same day all the time, the same stories. You get to really just spread it around. And the idea here is by having 2 topics, 3 values to be describing those topics, and then 5 different ways you can talk about those topics, you have an almost endless bucket of things to write about. This is just basically giving you that. Now, I will do this and I'll actually show you what my social media posts were like and how I work this out. So I don't usually put in my what do I call it? My values anymore in here because I know what they are. So I don't need to prompt myself about them. But I use the same kind of thing. The date, the time. This is all my posts for the next week, right? The type I've done it in a video and a text post. Here's my topic: confidence, social media, entrepreneurship. And then I've got what my summary and notes are. So what I've actually put into that post, the writing I've done in there. So this is how I lay that out. Now, a very similar way could be in my Google Sheets. I've got a layout, and I'll send you the link for this so you can use it for yourself. Where have I got it down here? I've got lots of spreadsheets, as you can see, tons and tons and tons of them. So LinkedIn posts, not that one. I need the cash flow. No, not that one. LinkedIn post, not that one. I'll get there in a second. I promise you. Posting plan template. Here you go. So this is one of them. So this would be starting on the 1st of October. That date can be anything, and then you just literally drag it down to get the dates all aligned. Topic 1, topic 2, topic 1, topic 2. There you go. Value 1, value 2, value 3, and then the questions. I'll send you a link through that you can use this and download it in Excel or Google Docs, whatever you want to use. It'll give you something you can use to be able to then work out that formula. It's actually, this is what I do. So you can see there's a link with what I do over here. So what all I've done is really just taken out the questions because I already know what they are. I already ask myself those questions and the values. See, I've been doing this a very long time, so I don't need to prompt myself anymore. All I do though is prompt my topic is my main prompt, and these are the times of the day I do it. I also do a 3 p.m. post, which is kind of a wild card, but that's a story for a whole other time and a whole other webinar. So that's the basics of it. What I want to do is take you through a bit of something else, so a few other tools that you might find useful. And the first one is this one. It's the seven perspectives, and the seven perspectives are seven different approaches you could take to any given topic, and it's all about approaching it from maybe the benefits or a description or something that's about the bigger concept or the big picture topic of that topic. And it's based on a guy called Dan Coe. So I've got here a writing helper for a GPT in ChatGPT. It's kind of like a custom set of instructions in ChatGPT. You can only access them if you've got the paid version of ChatGPT. But what I'll do, I'm going to take you in there for a look. And again, I'll send you through these links. So in this GPT, I could prompt it very, very quickly with something like, write about content creation or write about selling products online. And that could be something I do, say, for instance, I'll write in my own topic in here. So if I'm writing about something like starting oops, I got to write in there, starting a blue carbon project to make a revenue from carbon credits. So that's my topic. Now what it's going to do is show me the seven different perspectives that I've already programmed into this. So the seven different perspectives are, it's taking a little bit longer to get there. What is the benefit of this topic? What is the big idea of this topic? What is the concept, the example, goal, the problem, and the process? Now, what this lets me do is to figure out what I'm going to approach this topic from. So my example in here would be, it's a bit slow to get coming up, but it's getting there. So what I'm going to try and do, and the process is great. Here's basically a whole example. Here's how I would do that project. But what it gives me is different perspectives I can come at it with. So what is the benefit of exploring this topic? There it is, achieving financial returns through there. So I go, okay, the benefit of starting this kind of project would be this. Or I want to write a bigger picture idea. It's about undervalued assets in the carbon credit market. Or it could be the concept, which is about leveraging untapped potential of carbon ecosystems. Or here's a real world example. And even though I could do the Makoko Pamoja project in Kenya, I could just as easily pull up an Australian example. I'll just say, down here, in for, give me an Australian example. And that would then replace number 4 with the Australian, so the Blue Carbon Lab, led by Deakin University. So therefore, I've got, okay, it just helps you break the ice on what sort of perspective you're going to come at your topic with, because that can be a really hard thing to do. Great, I've got a topic. Yeah, I've got some values. Nice, I know how to ask that question. How do I approach it? And this would be an idea of how to approach it. Obviously, the process is a really important one because it gives you a very step-by-step way through. That could be the basis of a blog post. But I usually try to start from the problem. That's where I like to use mostly. The primary challenge lies in the high initial costs. There's the problem I want to write about and how this particular project's going to overcome them. Now, this could be just as simple as if I start this all over again, and I come in with my own topic of, say, let's try um, customers don't, sorry, business owners don't have the time to write their own tenders and grant applications. So that's a problem, right? Now, the topic is that the benefit is that business owners will save time. The big idea is about outsourcing, which is what that particular idea would be around. The concept writing tenders and grant application requires a lot of stuff. Example could be this small manufacturing business. The goal is to win contracts, right? The problem is lack of time, lack of expertise, and here's the process. So you can go and hire a tender and grant writer, provide them with all the essential data, and then submit and monitor that application. So this allows you then to take all those things we did before. So if we go back to our little simulated layout, I could go entrepreneurship, honest, what can I teach? So I can go, I want to write about, go and start a new version again. You always need to start fresh sessions in ChatGPT if you want to be able to reset it and not continue that conversation. So I can go entrepreneurship that comes from a place of honesty and vulnerability. While delivering observations from the real world. Now, it's not going to tell me what to write, but what it will do is give me that structured guide based upon, do I approach it from a benefit or a big idea or a concept? So like I said, I'll send you through the links for all these so you can give them a go yourself. They're completely free to use this little guide that I put together. Dan Coe is the guy who came up with the concept. I came up with the GPT. It's now used by quite a lot of people to help them write their stuff. But it gives you all these examples you can start with that give you the starting point of how to write that stuff. So it's not completely going to get you out of the woods altogether. But what it will do is give you an opportunity to be able to start from somewhere. You don't have to know all the bits before you start. You just have to know where to start to get the tools that will give you that. So the 3 steps, the 2 topics, the 3 values, the 5 questions, and now you've got the 7 perspectives, 2, 3, 5, 7. There's some kind of pattern in there, something to prime numbers maybe. And some other tools I want to show you apart from those 7 perspectives. And if you just want to, screenshot that, you can get onto it later on or just wait for the email. I've also got a free course at my website. So if you pop to my website, DanteSt.James.com, or just search me online on Google, it'll be pretty much the first thing that comes up is my website. Under mini courses there, what you're going to find is a mini course that's all about writing better. And this will deliver you essentially that step, the 2 topics, the 3 values, and the 5 questions to ask in a mini course over 5 weeks to help you get that really together and how to write that little bit better. So it's delivered over 5 weeks to your email, really quick to read, but it helps you to conquer one thing first, then move on to the next one, rather than going, here's everything I learned today. Let's just do it all in one step, because you don't have to do this today, but you do have to take the next step today. So whether that's doing the mini course or having a crack at it, seeing if it's going to work for you, that's all you really need to do. So I'll send you through the links to all those things through email if you're registered through Eventbrite, and you'll be able to get started on writing better for social media, blogs, podcast episodes, even YouTube videos, if that's where you want to go.